professional sports teams building new stadiums and arenas to be ugly on purpose? That, I feel, is a fairly interesting question, especially considering how the past decade or so has not been a golden era of design in this field. Case in point, the Golden1 Center in my hometown of Sacramento, California. When the G1C first opened, I, like everyone else, thought it looked pretty cool. 8 years later, and I'm far less enamored with it. Inside, great for sure, but outside, it just feels gimmicky. It screams mid-2010s. It's really difficult to imagine this improving with age. In fact, I'd argue that Hagen's Orange Freeze in Carmichael has a more timeless design. By the way, if you're in Sacramento this summer and you don't stop by Hagen's Orange Freeze at least once, what are you even doing? There's a reason they call it the happiest place in Carmichael. Anyway, with the obligatory local Sacramento reference out of the way, let's continue on. The ugly arena and stadium problem does not stop with the Golden1 Center. The Chase Center's design hasn't won many fans. As cool as the Intuit Dome looks on the inside, the outside is preposterous. I mean, did you really build your basketball arena to be the shape of a rugby ball? Come on. Around the way down in Inglewood at SoFi Stadium, it is a very similar story. From the inside, it is great. But from the outside, it is grating. Huh? See what I did there? Let's just carry on. Elsewhere, Levi Stadium is a disaster. Mercedes-Benz Stadium and US Bank Stadium are extremely jarring to look at design-wise. This isn't to say every stadium and arena, or soon-to-be-built stadium and arena in America, is ugly. Truist Park has a lot of charm to it. Same with UBS Arena. Fiserv form is a bit of a two-face for me in that it looks good from some angles, and then you see it from other angles, and you're like, this isn't so great. Regardless, the situation today is a far cry from what we saw in the 1990s and early 2000s, where classic ballparks, arenas, stadiums, whatever you want to call them, were springing up like wildflowers. In the NFL, you had Seahawks Stadium, Ford Field, and M&T Bank Stadium. The NBA gave us American Airlines Arena in Dallas, and insert financial company name here, Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. The NHL has Amalie Arena in Tampa, and Nationwide Arena in Columbus. 18 new Major League Baseball stadiums opened between 92 and 2010. You'd be hard-pressed to name one that is truly awful. If anything, though, the art of stadium building became too good, too refined during this period. With beautiful facades that have blended in seamlessly with the local surroundings, folks have not seen the need for new facilities decades later. Everyone sort of sees these arenas and these stadiums and goes, you know what, this is pretty nice. Why would we want to change this? I may not like Lincoln Financial Field, but as a stadium, it's solid. The Capital One Center in Washington, D.C. opened in 1997, and you could easily get 20 to 30 more years out of that building as is. This, of course, is a massive issue for the owners of professional sports teams who, much like a spoiled teenager, want everything immediately with others footing the bill. Keeping up with the Joneses sees these billionaires demand hundreds of millions of dollars in upgrades or entirely new places to call home. Fans seeing these perfectly good stadiums and arenas in their hometown do not see the need to fulfill these requests. In fact, many times it just comes off as very irritating that someone would have the audacity to demand money when you have a perfectly good stadium or arena right there. These debates are usually framed around the money. It's always about the money, and while that is certainly part of it, the optics cannot be ignored here either. If you're playing in an old, ugly building or barn, a request for a new one or massive upgrades at least seems somewhat reasonable. So, are teams now purposely building new stadiums and arenas to be ugly? Well, as the old saying goes, the proof is in the pudding, and in this case, the pudding just happens to be butt-ass ugly. Sure, there are some exceptions that I previously mentioned, but from an aesthetic standpoint, stadiums across America have taken a noticeable step back. Modern designers and the teams like to make up all of these stories about the inspiration behind the designs. You'll always hear about how the design incorporates local elements and celebrates local stories, all of that jazz. It sounds cool, I guess. Let's make one thing clear here. The architectural design firms behind these plans and renderings know firsthand, that is not how you make a timeless structure capable of lasting 50, 60, 70 plus years. These new stadium designs actually do the exact opposite, age out after a couple of decades and need replacing. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is great if you're a huge fan of Kirby in his stone form. As a building people want to see day in and day out for 80 years, absolutely no way. It's like those 1980s Taco Bell store designs. They were perfect for the moment, but as society changed and our tastes evolved, they swiftly lost their charm. The thing is, you can't help but think this is being done on purpose. Sports owners are not stupid. They're greedy, they're mean-spirited, they do not care about fans, but they are not idiots. They all can see the uphill struggle to get new stadiums and arenas built, and they sure as hell realize that if their team's home doesn't look like it needs to be replaced or upgraded, the local population is going to staunchly fight back against their claims for public assistance. On the other hand, if you have an ugly and dated venue that people are just tired of looking at, well, it becomes easier to sell that narrative of needing a new stadium or needing a new arena. It's never a slam dunk, but the logic tracks a lot better. Optics really speak for themselves. When American cities were in a rush to replace all of those stadiums built between the late 1960s and mid 1980s, it certainly helped that most of those facilities being torn down were brutal to look at and no longer fit in with the design tastes of the time. Riverfront Stadium, Market Square Arena, the list goes on and on and on. Those places were all loved for the memories and moments that happened inside, but as buildings, as part of the local skyline and landscape, well, they were massive eyesores, and it is far easier to convince the public to chip in to replace a massive eyesore. By the way, this isn't a call for all stadiums and ballparks and arenas to be built in that retro modern or retro classic style. While these do lend themselves to timelessness, it's still possible to create a design that takes risks without knowing it's going to be dated a few years down the road. The new Everton Stadium in England, Perth's Optus Stadium, and even the renderings for the new Buffalo Bills Stadium are all examples of how you can try to do something different without going overboard. Then again, owners risk being successful in creating a stadium or an arena that resonates with the public that they want to see for an extended period of time. And if that happens, well, you're right back where you started, arguing against a well-designed stadium. Nope, it is better to build stadiums and arenas hyper-modern, embracing a specific moment of time in design. It's better to build the sporting equivalent to the iMac, knowing fans are destined to grow old of it in due course. Then you can run the grift back and get something new 30 or so years down the road. I think it is safe to say, yes, a lot of teams, a lot of owners are building new arenas and new stadiums to be ugly on purpose. I mean, it's either that or these owners have the worst taste in architectural designs imaginable. That though seems unlikely. I mean, go look at the mansion the billionaire owners choose to live in. They aren't picking the hyper-modern, all-glass, futuristically designed mansions for the most part. No, it tends to be very traditional, low-key, timeless luxury. And the reason they choose this style is because it withstands the test of time. A new stadium withstanding the test of time, however, well, that is a bad business move because you cannot ask to replace a stadium that doesn't look like it needs replacing in the first place. But hey, as long as you describe those ugly features as tributes to the local area, no one will be the wiser. Oh, this hideous design element is supposed to remind you of a local creek, and this jarring element is a homage to some nearby terrain feature. Yeah, sure, if you say so. Look, maybe I'm wrong, but come on, how do you possibly explain this? Thank you for watching this video. If you want to see some of the quirkiest arenas in all of college basketball, video lower right hand corner of your screen is the place to go. And to see stadiums that were outdated before they were ever completed, video upper right hand corner. Until next time, I am Cheyenne Hollis, this is The Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.